Hello and welcome to Paula's Run Club Road to London, brought to you by Heiko, with me, Paula Radcliffe.
And me, Christopher Dobson.
And this week we have two experts on who will help make sure that your nutrition and hydration is on point these final weeks into the London Marathon. So, Tomo, week 12 we are now, so it is getting closer. We're definitely into the downhill bit now, aren't we?
Well, I would say we're a couple of weeks away from the peak to come actually downhill. It's I think it's that light at the end of the tunnel feeling where you are getting that backlog of training in, but there is still work to do. There is still those kind of the big kind of 2 or 3 sessions that people will have penciled in and almost possibly work back from at the beginning of this journey. And it's about almost kind of reminding yourself that like you talked about, remembering everything you have done, but also remembering there is that little bit of work to do. And if you do get over the brow of the hill, it really will be kind of that taper and reward of the downhill. But we're very much in the heat of it now, very much stoking the fire. The final few logs can go in, and it's exciting. It's why we came here, isn't it?
Yeah, and Tomo, hopefully some people benefited from the interview with Steve Peters last week, because by now, generally, I think in most of my marathon build-ups, the hiccup had come by now, if you like. Something had happened at some point to cause, even if it was just a virus for a couple of days, but something that meant you had to back off. So if you are battling through that, you're not alone. And that's why we did think that it was a good time to plan in this nutrition kind of episode, just to try and make sure that you are boosting your body and supporting it in as many ways as you possibly can to absorb all of that hard training. And to that end, it's a point to say a huge thank you to Heiko, the hydration company that we've teamed up with in sponsoring the pod, and just again to underline how important it is to stay hydrated all the way through, and not just on training days, on your recovery days as well. You still are losing electrolytes, you still are losing fluids, aren't you? And it does help your body to recover, just to keep that electrolyte balance where it should be.
Yeah, no, it's a hot topic for us, and I think what's really nice about Heiko and the team behind that is they've really put a lot of thought and time and energy into getting the balance right for that everyday hydration. I think sometimes we associate sometimes dehydration with sport, but it's not. It's a regular everyday thing that happens to us whether we're doing sport or not. Sport makes it more challenging, and I think they've put a lot of thought and energy into that aspect, the everyday aspect, and also the taste. The taste, it is difficult to find good tasting electrolyte drinks, and it does taste good, as we talked about, doesn't it?
Yeah, and getting kids to take that, I think, is the first step. And I know my kids are bigger, but still, they've got a taste now that they will take. And Isla loving the cans, so she takes those off on the way to lectures, and makes sure that our brain is as hydrated. And it is, I mean, it's a topic at the minute, isn't it? For this past weekend was the New York Half, and in extremely cold temperatures. And I have to give a big shout out to two British athletes out there who performed exceptionally well, in Megan Keith coming in third, 67.13 on the women's side, and Patrick Dever smashing that one through that 1 hour barrier with a really solid performance that indicates and bodes really well going into the marathon. So that was in cold conditions. And I think people forget, don't they, that, of course you need to fuel, but you also need to hydrate, because even when it's cold, you're probably warming up with a few more layers. You're probably in and out of centrally heated rooms, and that means you're losing a little bit more fluids and electrolytes as well, on top of the training amount and layering up.
Apologies if you got a bit of background noise from my son outside playing. He's enjoying himself. He's leaping at the moment, so he's doing his own marathon outside on the pavement. But no, exactly. And I think I want to actually mention a third Brit in Jack Rowe, who was not far behind Paddy Dever, 60.17, I think it was. It really only 20 seconds back from Paddy Dever, but so really good show from the Brits. I think historically it's good, British athletes, yourself, and I will put myself in there. I have finished on the podium in the half. Like we've shown good shows over there, but like you say, the freezing cold temperature and the aircon and the travel and everything around it does put a burden on hydration, even though you might not think it. And I have run that race quite a few times, and we've seen athletes that have not just struggled in the cold temperature, not even finished. It does find people out sometimes, and so well done to all of them. And it does look, bode very well for London. I know Megan's not thinking London, but hopefully one or two
No,
of the
no, but
others
she
are.
is building towards Commonwealth Games, 10,000 metres on the track. So
Yes.
I think this winter has seen a much stronger Megan Keith than we've previously seen. So that indicates well for fast times on the track. So yeah, I'm excited to see what she can produce there. And I think, these conditions at the moment are challenging because, so I don't know about you, but certainly for me here, we've had really nice weather, like approaching kind of 20s, and then suddenly torrential rain and freezing and windy, and then back the other way. So that yo-yoing makes it quite hard to stay consistent in your training. So I think, again, just remember to stay focused on what you have done, and whatever the conditions are on the day, it's worth getting that practice in, because we never know what it's going to be like on race day itself come 26th of April either. Probably should mention that performance in Barcelona as well from Foytan Tesfaye, coming out on a debut 2:10:51. I mean, phenomenal run in a debut at the marathon.
Yeah, it's a tricky one how to respond to that, because it defied all kind of logic with that performance. I mean, she was 65:05 at halfway. It was a huge run. Which took a lot of people by surprise, because it, like you say, it was a debut, and it was quite a jump in her performance. She has run 63 for half marathons a couple of years in the bounce, and she was an under 24th place World Championship runner back in 2016, but she's had what looks like quite a few lean years, and then in the last couple of years it's really shot up. So it's going to be interesting. I think it's always interesting with these kind of results. It's clearly a huge jump. It's shot the world. What goes on from here will be the interesting bit. And I think, that's, I don't know how better else to say it, but I think it's one of those. I hope we can believe this result.
Yeah, and it is one of those that you're absolutely right. Sometimes one-off performance, it's how they back it up. And it's where she goes from here. Not least the fact that it did have 2 male pacemakers the whole way around as well. So that kind of helped. But yeah, how you back that up once you have the pressure and the mantle on your shoulder of being the second fastest of all time behind somebody who has been caught for doping and probably shouldn't have that world record still in Ruth Chepngetich. So we'll see what happens next. But it was a phenomenally fast performance and kind of has woken up the marathoning world.
It has. I think the thing as well. I think people listening would have every right to be. We should not label an athlete one way or the other just off results, and give everyone the benefit of the doubt. And I will say this. It's never the individual. It's always how the sport is. And I think the sport has got a lot to be held account to, helping us believe everything we see and watch. And I think that's where that's where a lot of it comes, because we've seen athletes slip through the net like Ruth, and we want to be able to watch results no matter what the result is and go, yes, we believe it, because the people holding everyone to account who should hold people to account are holding them to account. And I think that's where I think we have to be careful. It's not necessarily about the individual. It's not necessarily about anything other than is the platform in place, are there things in place to ensure that we can see a fair and reasonable race. And I think that's where we're going to have to see how this rolls out. And the whole Ruth kind of situation, I think everyone can be forgiven to think, let's just make certain we see how the next period goes, so that we can sit there and go, that's the new No, I totally agree with you there, Tom. I think the basic goal of any athlete, certainly for me coming in, was you want to see how good you can be, and you want to be able to trust that you can do that on a level playing field. And what we need is the right checks and balances in place, so that we can be sure that athletes are competing on a fair and level playing field, and people watching, spectating the sport can have trust and faith in the results that they see and don't have to question, because that's also sad when it goes that way as well. So it is about improving those checks and balances. It just made me think of something there. It's almost like it's our version of VAR. It's like football's now, you can't trust if the goal's going to count or not. And I feel like that's where the sport is a little bit. It's almost like we're waiting for the VAR to confirm things. And that's nothing to do with, like I say, the individual. It's just to do with the situation with the sport. And hopefully we'll get to the point where we literally just go crazy and not even have to wait for a VR result. But yeah, I just thought that's like a just trying to ease the tension. Anyway, moving on.
Moving on. It is now time to catch up with an old friend who worked with both of us at different points during our career. Nutritional therapist Matt Lovell is coming up in this interview, brought to you by Heiko. Remember, you can head to drinkheiko.co.uk and use the discount code PRC, and you will get 10% off your first order and 20% off your second. And now it is time to welcome to the podcast a friendly face from the past in terms of Matt Lovell, who worked as a performance nutritional therapist with UK Athletics around the time that Tomo and I were on the teams, which was a while ago now. And you've gone a little bit down in the world, should we say now. You've gone to Ipswich Town Football Club and are working with them. That was a joke, by the way. But moved from athletics into football, but still very much in the realm of nutritional therapists, advice, and particularly with a nod to performance, which is why we want to pick your brains today.
Yeah, thanks a lot. It's good to see you both, actually. It's been a few years. In some ways, it flies by, doesn't it? But some ways, it is quite a long time ago as well.
I think time is a strange one with it, with the time where the time goes. You can't understand it, but anyway. But we're all looking as youthful as we did 15, 20 years ago, whatever. I lose track of the time, but yeah, we all still look as like we could run the Olympics again. Still, that's fine.
Until you start running. But anyway,
Speak for yourself. Anyway.
The main focus we wanted to talk to you about, Matt, is to really explore the importance of hydration and the importance of quality water, filtered water, and also how that can help your performance in the marathon, but also explore the benefits of hydrogen water. And I know that it's something that you use with the team at Ipswich Town. I have used it for the last couple of years and have definitely noticed the difference, shall we say, in just the way kind of sleep better, feel a little bit more alert, and certainly I think recover better through training.
Yeah, so hydration is one of these things that we call a sort of foundational habit. Humans don't do well at all if they become dehydrated, whether it be office workers who start not being able to think clearly and have difficulties with cognition and things like that, memory, reaction time, all those things. But as soon as you start moving your body, particularly if you're moving in an exercise way or in an athletic way, then optimizing your hydration will really be a limiting factor on how well you perform. There's loads of stats in the space about how much dehydration impacts performance, but one of the most common ones that's bounded around is a 2% dehydration will cause an 8% reduction in your speed and up to a 10% reduction in your strength and power. So that is not that much of a level of dehydration to significantly lower your performance. So it is something we keep coming back to as a fundamental bit of education with, clients in the corporate world, but also obviously footballers, athletes like yourselves would have been, hopefully well educated in the hydration space.
I remember it being, sorry, Tomo.
No, I was just going to ask, is it in that study when they say 2%, just for listeners, are we, as an average, a 2% drop is what, a pint of water, or can you quantify it to that in a volume sense?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So the easiest way to do that, just in terms of maths, is imagine you're a 100 kg athlete, and if they lost a kilo of their weight in water, i.e. sweat and the water you use when you exercise, that would be a 1% drop in their hydration status. So, and if they lost 2 kilos, that would be a 2% drop. So we would often get people to weigh themselves in minimal clothing at the beginning of their exercise session, and when they get back, weigh themselves in again. Obviously, you have to be in minimal clothing, because if you sweat into your clothes, it won't register a drop in your weight. And you can see really most sessions you'll drop about 2% if you're training hard for about an hour and a half, particularly if it's hot. So another stat around fluid loss is if it's 25 degrees, you could lose you could lose a good 2 liters in an hour of exercise. If it's only 5 degrees like it is today, the same hour of exercise, you might only lose 750 mil. So
So
obviously, yeah.
if we to qualify that, just to underline, it was about 25 degrees, wasn't it, in the London Marathon last year? Certainly for some of the finishers in the second half of the race. So that means they're out there for like upwards of 3, 4, 5, 6 hours in those temperatures and trying to hydrate as well as possible during the race. It's only again underlining the importance of that. And of course, any water is okay, isn't it? And we've talked about the fact that then you can add the electrolytes to it. You can add the glucose drinks and whatever you would put in to get more fuel into your muscles as well. But what we also wanted to explore to you was the benefits of the systems like the Pure Ionic system that will filter out the impurities, add some minerals, and also the benefits of hydrogen and adding hydrogen. So can you explain a little bit about how that works?
Yeah, sure. So I think the bottom line is that maintain hydration however you can. But when we're looking at high performance and actually the long-term health as well, if you think about the amount of water that you have to drink across a lifetime, if that water is slightly contaminated, if it has stuff in the water system that we know is in the UK water system, that could be everything from microplastics, I talked about a lot today. It could be forever chemicals, it could be residues of pesticides and all the other things. And those are the types of things that do turn up. If you look at, you can put your postcode into a search engine and you can find out exactly the chemicals that are in your local area, in your water system. And frankly, sometimes that is actually quite scary reading. And for me, I work in high performance, so I wouldn't want that either in my own body or in the body of my athletes. I've raised a family. Certainly wouldn't have wanted it in my young children. Obviously when kids are small, they concentrate more nutrients. So that brings us on to filters. So there's loads of filters available, and they turn up in varying degrees of how much the filtration mechanism works. You really want to filter things down to microns. So that means taking out 0.0001 of everything. It annoys me when I sometimes see filters advertised by famous people and they say, oh yeah, this removes like 95% of the toxins. And you're like, well, okay, but what about the other 5% of all those toxins? Really want, if I'm going to invest in a filter, I want it to be really filtering it down to the minute stuff, even to the extent where that filtration is so strong, it could make, pond water palatable, and it could take bacteria and microbes and other things like that out of the water as well. And you do sometimes hear of a certain region in the UK where everyone gets a nasty bug from the water because it's not filtered, and something like Cryptosporidium turns up in the water system, and then everyone gets sick in that local area. So that's the first thing, really. A very strong water system, which the Pure Ionic system is one of the most strong ones I've ever seen. And I think I've been using that system for over 15 years. But, tech is developing fast. So if you go on the internet, you will probably see hydrogen water advertised, little devices which put an electrical charge into the water. And the Pure Ionic system does this as well. What this does is if you have a minor electrical charge in the water, what that does in the body, in very simple, the most simple explanation I can give to you, is it will jump in and it will get rid of something nasty called a free radical. If you have a free radical there, it can damage healthy cells. So if you have a negatively charged ion, it will donate one of its molecules and it will get rid of that free radical, so that water will be less damaging. But more than that, those hydrogen ions can also add to your sort of antioxidant status. So there is a theory around ingesting more antioxidants, and that would also be from eating loads of veg and healthy fruits and things like that. But then if you can back it up with the water as well, you can feel more energized. People talk about feeling more energy when they have that type of a diet and use a hydrogen type of a water as well. So the Pure Ionic it's got the filtration and it's got the ionization. And we can come on to the remineralizing in a minute. Tom, I know you want to ask a question.
No, it's fine.
You're right.
No.
No.
It was more related to the fact that the free radicals you talked about. Just to clarify, that would be so when we're exercising, and if you're training hard, you're producing those free radicals, and they're kind of floating around the body. That's kind of what causes the DOMS and the delayed onset soreness, and just slows down a little bit of recovery. I know there's some muscle damage in there as well, but free radicals don't help in all of that. And slows down recovery, certainly, and ability to capitalize on the training sessions. How much? So I know it's a silly question, but if we've got all these free radicals flying around and we keep giving these ions over to get rid of them, how many of those ions do we need to ingest? How much do you need to drink to see a difference, I guess is what I'm asking.
Well, that is quite a technical question.
Oh, sorry.
It's all right.
Roughly.
Because you'd have to be measuring the free radicals, which can be done in a lab. But I think if we think that the best way to answer that would be, well, how much water does someone need to drink for health?
Yeah, well, that's what I mean, to see a benefit, to see an improvement.
I think, from what I understand, I've normally used 25 to 35 ml per kilo as a daily hydration strategy. So if we go back to the 100 kilo athlete, to make the math simple, that's 2.5 to 3.5 liters of water a day. And, ideally, if you've got a filter like Pure Ionic, you get majority of your water from there. But obviously sometimes you're out and about, so you might buy some bottled water, or you might just have to drink some tap water. And that's absolutely fine. The bottom line in these situations is maintain your hydration from whatever strategy you can. But when you're in control of your hydration, then it makes sense to opt for, a higher end performance-based solution system. That being said, I was in Cambridge once giving a talk, and I poured a glass of tap water. I don't know if anyone listening is from Cambridge, but I went to smell it, and the chlorine was so strong. I was really thirsty. I just put it down. I thought, I'm just going to wait till I get home because I just can't drink that.
Wow.
And some areas of the UK will use a lot of chlorine in the water systems.
Wow.
Now, if you let that glass stand overnight, the chlorine gas would all escape and it would be gone. Now you could drink it; it wouldn't smell so bad. But most people don't do that. Most people pour it and drink it, so they will be ingesting some chlorine along the way.
So, because I obviously before this conversation, I believe that Pure Ionic are going to have a link to the website that people at some point in the future people can check the areas you alluded to and have a look at the water quality and where they're from. And so I had a look at where I am, and I think this is the good sign is there's no heavy metals and there's no pesticides or herbicides, but there are 58 chemicals that are in our water. And as a guy with 2 kids, I mean, obviously there is this performance side of this we're talking about, and the fact that hydration doesn't just happen on the day of the event you're running. It happens every day in your everyday life. But I have kids, and especially a 1-year-old who has had tap water. I have a very simple basic filter because in my head it's something I need to do, but I'm still looking at 58 chemicals. And I kind of think, I guess my question is, I don't know what to do with that in terms of, is there any big ones in there that I should be looking at?
Yeah.
And is that normal for the UK? I mean, I imagine wherever you are in the UK, there are some levels of these chemicals. Yeah. And everywhere, not just the UK, everywhere in the world.
Pretty much everywhere in the world, unless you've got a kind of some sort of natural water source from which you can drive your water, like a mountain spring or something like that. And even sometimes then, if people have got a natural water source, I had some friends living in the countryside, and they were considering having a family. And I said, look, first thing you need to do, they had a borehole, going deep into the ground. And I said, first thing you need to do is test that water. and they tested it and it was super high in arsenic. So, so that, and they've been drinking it for years. So even a natural water source might have something in it like that. But Tomo, in answer to the question, all those little chemicals, and the levels won't be that high. They are like minute levels. But why would we want to take any of those chemicals into the body? A lot of those chemicals are called forever chemicals. So once they're in the body, they cannot get out of the body. I mean, it's really hard to get them out. So you can do some like advanced detox protocols, but they are, difficult to do. They need to be done under supervision and things like that. So the first thing to say is control what you can control. I mean, if you live in a city, you can't filter all your air, but you can filter the air in your bedroom with an air filter. The next thing to think about is the water system. You drink lots of water, you breathe lots of air. Just try and get both those things as clean as absolutely possible without going crazy on it, But look, if you can invest in these systems, and they do work out cheaper than buying bottled water regularly, what lots of people do. So get one of the systems into your house. I've had one at home for years. I really, not just saying it because we're here talking about Pure Ionic. I really believe in these things. They really are important for human health.
And can we just clarify it, Matt? So, because it doesn't work out when you say the cost, it's something like £5 a day, isn't it? Or is it even that much?
Well, I'd have to be accurate on and it does depend on the system that you get. But the last time I spoke to Paddy, they had some systems on a rental system which were around about £1 to £2 a day on the rental thing. And when you think about buying a mineral water from the supermarket, you're rapidly spending much more than that, aren't you?
And you can run as much water as you want, and presumably you can also cook with it, shower in it. If you've got the all singing, all dancing, then you can shower in it. But with the regular filter that comes out of the regular tap, you can cook with that. If you boil it, does it change the? Because I know I use mine in the kettle, but it does descale the kettle.
Yeah, it won't change the mineral content. Ionization wise, I'd imagine that would get rid of some of the ions. But the last thing to sort of focus or talk about is that, as well as the filtration process, that will make that water almost like distilled water, but the body needs some electrolytes. So these are minerals that help the body hold water in the cells. So you're thinking about magnesium, potassium, trace minerals like that. And so the final stage of the water filtration system, Pure Ionic, remineralizes the water. So it actually comes out with a decent level of magnesium in it. And what that does in the body is it helps contribute to an overall leaning towards a slightly magnesium alkaline status. So you can eat lots of different things. You can eat, meats are quite acidic. Vegetables and fruits tend to be quite alkaline, and it's important to have a balance between the acid and alkaline. So what you have with the water is you're maintaining some of that alkalinity, which is another benefit. And the reason it's alkaline is because it's a source of trace minerals. So you are actually getting not the level you'll get if you took a magnesium supplement, but it is a significant level of trace mineral content in the water system.
And presumably the more we train as well, the more you lean to, because I remember back when I was training hard, I would take lemon juice twice a day, neat, to realkalinize my system, because we kind of are tilting it more towards the acidic just by the byproducts of training hard, aren't we?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so producing lactic acid, which, both of you will be very used to producing lots of lactic acid across your life.
I vaguely remember it, yeah.
Not so much for me.
Yeah, vaguely.
And lemon juice is an interesting example because it comes out with an acid pH, but the net effect in the body is to alkalize the body. we can explain that science perhaps in
Yeah,
an
another time.
article.
But I do
Yeah,
remember being really shocked when I was told to take the neat lemon juice because it was alkaline. I'm thinking, but surely it's pH acidic. But when your body processes it, it balances things out. And I do
it
think, I mean,
does.
the benefits of hydrogen are huge. I mean, Tomo, I was reading some stats earlier, and the National Cancer Institute classifies hydrogen-rich water as a nutritional supplement because it has such potential preventative, antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, and radiation protection activities.
I mean, because the thing is as well for me, like I know you guys both use this Pure Ionic system, like you, Paul, at home, and Matt with, especially with the all the Ipswich team, and this conversation I'm listening, and I have to say I feel a little bit uncomfortable because of my kids, and I genuinely worry about them, and I'm looking at this chemical and I see arsenic in it, and you've just mentioned that, and I'm thinking I need to do something about this. But my question was going to be,
clarify first there, Tomo, not to scare everybody listening.
No, I know.
Minimal levels.
Hang on. No. I wasn't trying to do that. I was purely was segueing into. Don't worry, I'm not.
I didn't want to scare you either.
No. You're not. It's. Look, at the end of the day, with things like this, it's important, and it has to be talked about and discussed, and how we emotionally hear it and take it on board. You have to put things into perspective, but my question was going to be how much of a difference you guys noticed when you did shift. Would you guys say I would notice a physical change or difference in it?
I think you would over time. I mean, people notice a difference when they have more trace minerals like magnesium. Loads of people notice a change when they reduce the amount of acidic foods they take in relation to alkaline foods. It's important to clarify that, the levels of these contaminants are quite low, and the water system for the most part in the country is safe and free from bacteria and things like that. So, but what we're talking about is when you want to level up and you want to be certain you're getting the very best water you can for yourself and your families. And as soon as you become an athlete, particularly the level that you guys have been, and also when you're looking at football, championship, premiership, the margins are so small that you
League
need
Two.
things,
Don't forget League Two.
You need
Barrow.
things like this. And one of the first things I did with Ipswich was look at the water filter system, and also look at the amount of plastic bottled water that was turning up on pallets in trucks. Mm-hmm. And I just thought, well, first of all, environmentally, I just hate that amount of plastic waste. And the second thing is sometimes those pallets turn up, and in the summer they sit there until they've all been squirreled away. They might sit there in the baking sun, and then you might get some plastic leaching into the water from the plastic bottles. And you certainly get that in hot countries when you go on holiday, and you're walking along, you're really thirsty, and there's a newsagent and there's a load of water that's been sitting in the sun outside. I even had one instance where I tried some of that water, I think it was on an airplane, and it literally tasted the plastic because it had been probably stored at a high temperature.
So yeah, I mean, I think you made a good point there, Matt. It's not about scaring people. It's not about saying that the water they're drinking is unsafe. It's just a way to up the quality of what your family are taking in. And it's little things, Tomo, like I noticed that my son could concentrate for longer. Because he's got a little bit of kind of ADHD. He's just a teenage boy, basically, and struggles to concentrate for a while. But I noticed that difference, and then sleeping better with the water when I started with that. And I send them off because I was told to put it in a metal bottle to keep as much of the hydrogen in through the day. But again, that's cutting down on having to buy plastics or having to worry about it. Does mean they've got to carry the extra weight, and the school bag's heavy enough, but at least I know that they're getting good quality water to drink through the day. And I think for me personally, it's almost like, and it's probably a little bit in your head because you know that it's hydrogen rich and it's got these minerals in, but you drink it and it quenches your thirst faster. That's kind of one of the things that I noticed. And there's a nice taste to it, which is, there isn't a chemical taste to it at all. So it does taste better. One final question as well to ask you, Matt. If we are mixing the hydrogen-rich water with the electrolytes that you're using in sports training, or with your recovery drinks, or with your actual carbohydrate drinks that you're going to use during the run itself. Is there a benefit to that? Should we do it?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you can use the majority of your water from a home system like that, what that does is mean you're spending less money on over-the-counter type of waters, and a lot of water is sold now with either the alkaline claim or the ionization claim. But the ionization claim, any water you buy off the shelf, it won't be ionized anymore, because within 24 hours all the electrical charge will be gone. So you can safely say that it won't have an antioxidant value for the body if you're buying it over the counter. But you can use that for any of those drinks you just mentioned.
And it doesn't affect the way that your body absorbs the energy from it.
No, not at all. If anything, it might enhance some of the uptake, because you've got the nice trace mineral blend that's added in at the end of the filtration process. I would just add one point though, although it does contain a very good blend of minerals and electrolytes, it isn't high in sodium for obvious reasons, because if you want to take salt, then it's best to just buy salt, season your food. And if you want to use salt for training, which lots of people need to do, you would need to add in a sodium-based electrolyte solution to your pure ionic water. And that could be in the form of effervescent tablets or powders that you buy. There's almost a limitless amount of choices you can make in the electrolyte space. Although, Tomo, very few of them are not artificially sweetened. So finding a naturally sweetened electrolyte is quite tricky. Yeah. There are some obviously available, but you have to have a good look around. Yeah.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you so much for your input. It's really good to see you again. Really good to chat. And thank you for all of your advice and information on the Pure Ionic Water systems. And people can check out all of that information on their site as well, of course.
Yes, thank you so much.
Super nice to see you both. Yeah, super good.
Oh, that was great to catch up with Matt there, Tomo, and some great advice as well. Again, underlining how important the quality of what we put into our bodies is in speeding up our recovery and helping to make the most of all of that hard training that everyone is putting in. I have to say, I mean, I noticed the difference on ours. I think all of us sleep better, even cooking in it. The kind of things scale up. The kettle scales up less quickly and is much easier to remove, and it seems to improve the taste of things.
Yeah, I think it's something that I certainly during the conversation, and I think I said it at the time, didn't I? That it gets your cogs thinking and makes you aware of something that sometimes you probably take for granted that it's there, but actually there are small little 1% you can do to potentially make something even better. Certainly hydrogen into water and helping with that process is really interesting, and it's made me very intrigued to have the system installed myself, I have to say, especially with a young family and myself, because I know how much hydration helps everyday life in every way and form. And so if there's something I can do to bring out even the best in water, to me it's what a useful thing. But how long have you had your system? You've had it a while, haven't you?
I think we've had it 2, maybe 3 years. My mum's had it for a couple of years, and again, she noticed the difference straight away in terms of taste. I think that's the key as well. If you are somebody who struggles to drink enough liquid during the day, the better it tastes, the more likely you are to stay up on and stay on top of your hydration. So, of course, we do have a code for everybody. As you would. So you can head to Pure Ionic and you can use the code Paula Hydration, capital P, capital H, and that will get you £50 off the annual fee and a free installation of the tap. So basically, you just go to it, turn it on, it comes straight out of the tap.
I mean, you can't lose.
You can't. I know
you can't lose. Do you know what is funny? And I will put Gemma. My Gemma is awful at drinking enough. The amount of times I have to pester her. I've seen her make herself a drink, and it's still there at the end of the day, and you have to nudge her to go drink. But anyway, that's a complete side point. Maybe
it can be like I've got one child that's like that, and one child that just drinks all the time without having to push them. So yeah, you never know. Everybody's different, aren't they?
They are, but I'm just thinking as well, when you take something seriously, it's like training. When you train, it makes you take yourself more seriously about nutrition and hydration.
Yeah.
And so maybe by getting something like this, it will make Gemma be like, well, we're making this kind of effort. I need to match the effort with actually drinking it. But anyway.
Yeah. Anyway,
Right.
on to something that we both love, food.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
It is time to catch up with Paul Ainsworth. And I don't know about you, but I'm really looking forward to getting down to his restaurant, doing a full interview with him later on and picking up some really good tips on cooking and different recipes and trying out his food down there. But for now, we're just going to have to content ourselves with the interview with him, short interview on how you can get the best out of the food you're putting in your body. And now, sticking with the nutritional advice, we thought we'd go to absolutely one of the best who knows what it's like to run the marathon as well, has done London twice. Chef Paul Ainsworth joins us. Thank you very much for joining Paula's Run Club and giving us your gems on nutrition throughout the training build-up, but particularly race week and race day itself.
Well, firstly, thank you so much for having me, Paula. Pinching myself that I'm talking to you. Big fan. So thanks for having me. Can't believe I'm doing this podcast. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And let's start off, shall we, with the preparation. And we talk a lot on the podcast about when you are up in the training, you've kind of got to put the building blocks there for your body, and that's sleep and that's nutrition primarily, and helping your recovery. And we talk about the 20-minute window. So you've done a hard workout. Within 20 minutes to get essential building blocks into your body will help you capitalize and make the most of all of that training. So what would be your go-to for 20 minutes?
My absolute go-to and what I feel is nice and quick is eggs on toast. It just ticks all the boxes for me. Generally, I'll probably have about 5-6 fried eggs, cooked in either some tallow or ghee or some good grass-fed butter. Obviously, I'm privy to brilliant ingredients, so and again, it's sort of the simplicity of it, but it's all about the ingredients. So fantastic eggs, which we have here in Cornwall. I'll season those with some salt, some Cornish sea salt. So again, great hydration, and with the sodium from the salt. We make a beautiful sourdough in our restaurant. So I'll always pinch a loaf of sourdough. Again, knowing great flour, water, ferment. And yeah, whether scrambled, a nice amount of butter, so good fats. And to be honest, I really look forward to it. That sort of is coming into my mind at the end of the block and thinking how good those eggs on toast are going to taste.
See, that sounds perfect to me, but I would throw in some avocado in there.
I was just going to say that myself, actually. Yeah. Avocado, would you recommend it?
Do you know what? I'll be really honest with you. I do eat avocado, but purely and simply because I know the health benefits. Texturally, it's something that I'm not a massive fan of. So when I'm eating it, I'm sort of getting it down. But for me, the good fats for me are the butter.
Which is great. I mean, good fats and things like that. We talked about the post-race meal. Obviously, you've got a fuel before you go out training as well. And so evening meal, things that really... I was with a group of athletes at the weekend at a competition, and one of them was complaining that they chose the wrong pre-race meal. So they didn't sleep because a little bit too close to bedtime, but also the wrong type of food for your body to digest and sleep with. What would be your recommendation there?
I mean, there's lots of things I love, but I'll give you one that is probably my favourite and go-to, and that is steak. So and it will generally be the sirloin. Ribeye is my favourite, but the sirloin, I think you get the nice balance of fat to protein. White potatoes, again, I love to just gently cook like you would when you see chefs teaching you how to make roast potatoes. So gently steam the potatoes in a little bit of either stock or water, take them out, then put those in the oven just to roast. A nice healthy amount of Parmesan. There's a lot now on especially like a Parmigiano Reggiano, something that's organic, 36 months. That's a non-processed, good cheese, contains a good amount of protein. So again, I've got the carbs coming from the potato. They're delicious because I've cooked them in a nice fat, a good juicy steak. Now this is not something I would say is part of, I think I'm getting everything I need from the steak, the parmesan, the potato, the butter that I've cooked or the fats that I've cooked the steak or the potato in. But I do love like a rocket salad with cucumber, cherry tomatoes, a little bit of crumbled feta. Finish that with some great extra virgin olive oil. Just recently, I've started buying products from Hunter Gatherer. I really like what they do, and they do an amazing extra virgin avocado oil, sort of first press, and that it's deep green, that drizzled all over the salads, and then just either some nice balsamic or lemon and lemon zest, and that to me is not, it's not diet food. It's not sort of like it's the best. It's delicious. It's it makes you sort of salivate when you talk about those.
Yeah, I feel hungry.
I know. But I have to say, I mean, I'm a massive tomatoes fan. I love tomatoes in any shape or form. And it used to be, going back to when I was a kid and we were going out on the bus for days of cross country racing. My mum's go-to, like send us out ready to face the day, was chopped tomatoes out of a can, just heated up, with some melted cheese in there as well on the toast, maybe a little bit of bacon on the top, but it really sent us out ready to go. And then I realized that when I was going traveling around the world, that wasn't really something I could travel with.
Yeah.
So that's when I transitioned back to porridge. And so I just have my porridge that I can make with water, with some chopped up banana, some honey in there, and dark chocolate is another go-to for, I'm talking race day breakfast now, but things that you can travel with, because so many times for marathons, you're traveling, you've only got the hotel room, you may not be able to get breakfast at that time in the morning, so you've kind of got to have it ready to go in your room.
Yeah. And funny, you just said that as well, Paul. After the steak, potatoes, salad, then quite soon after, because I like to have a cut-off point of, going to bed, not having a lot of food, then going straight to bed. But I like the Farge yogurt. I quite like the consistency of it. It's quite thick, quite moussey. Some chopped dates, some frozen berries, some dark chocolate, and that's it. And I just and again, it's like a pudding. It's not sort of like, I'm trying to get it down. It's delicious. It's got good proteins in there for me. So that's sort of my, when I'm completely and utterly in the zone and wanting to fuel, and as you touched on as well, Paula, sleep. Which sorry.
No, I was literally going to ask you, because again, the demand of training, and you're doing a lot of it. Do you kind of mix the meals around important hard sessions, or do you kind of that meal you described pre-race is obviously your key one, but I'm always conscious of athletes, and I certainly myself found textures when you have too many gels or the same meal too often. It can be quite arduous. Is that the right word? To kind of arduous. That's the word. To kind of have the same thing. So do you kind of mix it during training phases?
Not really, and I completely. It's a great question, and I completely understand, and maybe this might help some people, but I really do believe in sort of decision fatigue, and I was one of those people that I get so wrapped up in listening to all the different things online, and eggs are bad for you, eggs are good for you, too much red meat, not enough red meat, avocados, all of these things. And I think what I found is it's almost sort of quite primitive, like my approach, in that sort of, I think I haven't got the time with the job I do, and trying to sort of, just stay fit, but then also like enter races. I've not entered any races this year because I just know that I really want to sort of enter them and do the best I can. And I've got the biggest project of our life happening this year in Cornwall. So I'll continue the training. So I just like to sort of keep it really sort of simple, in that I've almost trained my brain to go, do you know what? Don't sort of look at it as sort of, restaurant like, or I want to have different things. Look at it more as, actually you've got a better chance of keeping on top of this if you're not having to make choices and look at it like a menu, and just look at it as, well, I know that I'm getting that from that, that from that, and that from that, and that just works for me. And I've had to train myself to sort of think like that. But and that's not to say I'll do it, but I might go for like a 4-week block where I kind of just eat the same thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's just and I think that's just because of, I'm not in that position to sort of, get right into different recipes each day. And tonight when I get home I'll do it, because I just haven't. So sort of that more primitive way works quite well for me.
Totally identify with that. Identify with that.
And I was just going to say, the other thing that I really identify is kind of the build up to the race. And you'll spend a lot of time really thinking about eating the right things, eating at the right times. There's a kind of bit of rebellion kicks in after the race. It's just like, I haven't had those donuts all the time, I'm going to have those. And so that's okay, isn't it, to be kind of bring in that more after the race? Is that what you would kind of go with, the more exotic, the curry that you're not going to have the night before, you can absolutely binge on after the race, and anything goes really? And that's, I think, my biggest memory of my first marathon was I could just eat what I wanted. I was starving for about a week afterwards.
Yeah, I look at it like the medal. That's almost like the trophy. That's almost like the trophy for me, Paul. Even simple things like, after a long run at the end of the Camel Trail in Weybridge, there's a coffee shop right on the Camel Trail, and it's that flat white, and they're the most simple things, but like I'm looking forward to them, and I love the feeling of it's earned. And one of my favorite things about racing is the night, that night. Generally, don't they, you're finishing up, and it's that night, and it's being with the family, and anything goes. And it is whatever it is. It's the pizza. I mean, a lot of the time as well, you think you want to gorge, but you actually can't get much down. I remember that so I did London last year, and by the time I'd finished all the phone calls and everything, and I realised I'd finished it, and I'd had someone handed me one of the sponsors was like one of these yogurt protein drinks, and I remember sort of drinking that, and it suddenly dawned on me that, right, you've just run 26 miles and I actually haven't eaten anything or really drank anything, and then I was like, right, I need to stop talking, texting and taking phone calls and now just get something inside me.
But you're absolutely right. It's like anything go. So I've 2 stories. I remember at the end of in 2003, at the end of the 2:15, you go. My stomach was absolutely in bits. I really couldn't face anything. I got straight into press conference, doping control, all of that. I actually ended up with like Coke to settle my stomach and a cheese sandwich. And given that I knew that I was kind of like a bit lactose intolerant, it wasn't the best thing, but it was all that was available, trying to get something in. And then the other one was after one of the New Yorks, I think it might have been the first one with Ireland, when my husband really thought he was helping, and he greeted me at the end with like a plate of broccoli, steamed salmon, and like potatoes, and for really healthy stuff. And I was like, no, I just want some chocolate or some chips or something like that, because that's really going to kind of feed me. But let's rewind this a little bit. What would be your best carb loading type thing? I mean, we talked as well about people not having to take it all from food, and to use the drinks that are out there to, coupled with the hydration, tie it into your muscles for the glycogen loading. But are there things that you can really stock up on those on that glycogen without feeling completely bloated, stuffed when you're on the start line?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, it's really worth pointing out that carbohydrates aren't just flour-based pastry bread products. There's carbohydrates are loaded in fruit and vegetables, and and especially with like fruit. And my sort of ritual on race morning. So London Marathon. It was just, I mean, it's how I am. I took my own toaster to the hotel, because I just wanted to repeat everything I've been doing. So I took my own butter in my suitcase, my own marmalade, my own loaf of bread. I took a toaster in my suitcase, and then I just because I don't know. I'm sure you can. I'm sure you're even well more OCD, Paula. But yeah,
I took
it
my
was
rice cooker so I could do
yeah.
the rice the night before and my porridge in it in the morning.
Yeah, and I took all of these things, and I just had this and at the time as well, I was checking out like this protein cereal and milk. So yeah, my morning was because I looked at the marmalade a bit like I look at marmalade a bit like the gels. So I know some people go for peanut butter and stuff like that, but I was like, I'm going to look at sort of like the marmalade as the gels. Again, the good fat. So yeah, it was like bananas. Then I went into my cereal. Then I went into my toast. Obviously, then I'm drinking my electrolyte drinks alongside that. And and again, this is just me personally, but again, you can read online about how many grams of carbs. I just couldn't do it like that. I just did it to what I felt comfortable with. And the night before, there's lots of stuff online about how many grams you should be getting in on, you should start sort of if races on the Sunday, start to build up from the Thursday. But I just wasn't. I just ate to feel and what felt right, and I just didn't. And I also didn't go like the night before. I didn't do the whole bowl of pasta thing. I actually did steak and potatoes. And I remember once I went on a big bike ride in France, and we kind of stopped and did a bit of a carb load, and we all got stuck into a load of pizzas. And oh my goodness, I felt awful on the bike. So I think sort of pizzas always put me off. I think because of maybe the melted cheese and I think again going back to that primitive, potatoes, meat, bread in its more simplest form as opposed to sort of pizza or stuff like that. But that's just me.
No, I think you're right to say with what you stick with what you enjoy and what your body feels good on. And because there are now so many carb drinks on the market that you can take those alongside. So from the Thursday, you can take those and then you can just carry on with your normal diet, and that helps everything, your normal digestion, normal morning routines in terms of making sure that you keep going to the toilet as you would normally do before you go to the race, because that plus a cup of coffee in the morning and nerves kick in and are going to make sure that you're kind of clear and ready to go by the time you're on race day. And if you're trying to stuff in a lot more carbohydrates, it can just be too much for your system to take. Whereas now that everything is available in drink form, that you can know that your glycogen levels are topped up within your muscles, and you can stick with what you enjoy eating.
I think also as well because we're privy to everything as well. I'm an age grouper. Like you got to sometimes remember. Like the pros. The pros like yourself. You're the pros. That's what you're doing.
No, we're age groupers now.
But like like you say. And one thing you mentioned, I just forgot to mention. And yeah, I have to have coffee.
Yeah.
Coffee is a big.
I was going to say coffee or
morning.
tea.
Yeah, coffee. Absolutely.
Coffee, yeah.
In honor of the Cornish tradition as well, like because I've done a lot of running on that camel trail as you just mentioned, and I would finish at Wadebridge as well, and at Wadebridge, and I'd quite often after a big session get a pasty. It's got potato, steak. It's got and it would be almost like a guilty pleasure, but it was doing a job. Because I found it easy to get down, and it had a lot of those components in. Because I just needed something, and quite often I would finish, and it would be that thing that would just kind of help me, just to get the ball rolling after a big run. Because obviously that trail it's very long. I've done 20 plus miles on there, and it's fantastic. But there's always a pasty shop not too far away, just calling your name.
Yeah. Do you know what, Chris? I've not done that yet, but in honour of you, I'm gonna give that one a go.
I was about to say you probably make one from scratch, do you? To have it ready there waiting? No, you don't make your own.
Honestly, Paula, yeah, you cannot be a Malcolm Barnicut's pasty is one of life's greatest pleasures. I think to point where my Achilles heel is the there's obviously the race build up, there's the race. But it's then to sort of have a word with myself after a week and be like, Okay, Paul, the race was a week ago. I think you've indulged enough now. Now start get back. Now it's time to start to get back to
Yeah.
a bit of a routine. My problem is I'm telling myself the following Sunday that like I'm a legend. I've just run the marathon. What shall we have today?
But that's important that we do that as well.
Yeah.
Though. It is important. We tell ourselves we're a legend and we can treat ourselves. That's the whole. That's
I think the reward part is a big part of what keeps you going as well. At 22 miles, I can remember we used to run past the Tower Hotel, and on my first one, I ran past and I thought, right, Haagen-Dazs. I'm absolutely going for the Haagen-Dazs afterwards, and I finished, and there was no way I could face an ice cream. Yeah. And by the time I managed to get back to the hotel, it was shut anyway. So that one didn't happen.
So before we
got me through.
Before we go, Paul, I know you said you got some big mammoth projects, and we're very excited that we're going to have a bit more of an up close and personal, get to know you more chat down the road, which we will tease people by saying that. I'm very much looking forward to that. But it's going to be great. So hopefully we see some of this mammoth project going on. But I know this year you're not. Is there London next year? Have you got anything in the horizon that you're looking towards in the future race-wise?
So 2 years ago, it's something I've been wanting to do for a long time. But 2 years ago, I just, made a decision that I've got to get serious, and for lots of reasons, all sorts of reasons. But I started training in triathlon. Took a coach, and my goal was I wanted to do a half Ironman, a 71.3. And in that 2 years, I've now done 3 of them. 2 of them in Austria, 1 in Greece, and then I did the T100 in London last year.
Wow!
And last year was it was the best year. I did London Marathon and two half Ironmans and the T100, and it was incredible. And I knew going into this year, last year we bought a hotel in Rock, which is just opposite Padstow.
Yeah.
And it's a 21 bedroom hotel, and we're not just sort of, closing it and doing a refurb. We are really changing it and really making it something we believe truly, truly special. I want it to be, in time regarded as one of the, the greatest hotels and greatest sort of, places to go in Rock. We have our pub over there, which is the Mariners. And everything I do, I have to, I go into it with full focus. And last year I knew that, I'm always busy, and, I've got multiple sort of places to, to run, but I knew it was manageable, and I knew that I could do the training. And the training is so much more than just doing the race for me. It's truly made me just better in every part of my life, from being a dad, husband, everything. It's just been life changing for me. So this year was all about maintaining the training, but my goal, and potentially, I'm looking into it, for next year, if I know I can commit to train, but I would like to do a full Ironman and go full distance next year. But that's my goal.
I assume that's because the treats post Ironman are the biggest treats. It's the biggest pleasure. the treat factor of that.
Definitely, and during, you've got to keep fueling that. That's
Yeah.
all we've got time for this time, I'm afraid, Paul. But I would love to revisit that in the main interview, because I think there is so much that we can tap into with goals and just how you got into it as well, and how kind of, I guess, it translates into other areas.
Yeah.
And just wishing everybody luck in the next few weeks. I've got a couple of family members doing it, so just wishing everyone the best. Brilliant. London Marathon 2026.
Awesome. Thank you so much, mate.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Well, that was excellent. I don't know about you, Tomo, but I'm off now to make myself some eggs on sourdough. I've got to find the sourdough first, though. It's hard to do in France.
It's definitely given me food for thought. That sorry. I've got to fit one dad joke in. No, do you know what? What's really I found interesting on a side point is how much when he describes food he makes like simple things sound so
makes
delicious,
it come alive.
and it brings it alive. It shows you how much the taste of food can come through words. Even when you look at a menu in a restaurant, the description of something is like, it does tilt you in one direction, and so it's made me go, oh yeah, steak tonight, yeah, that's a good idea. Sourdough.
Even when it's something simple, it just makes it sound exotic, doesn't it? And like you want to get stuck into it.
He knows his craft. But I think what he did really well talking about is, again, even someone with his knowledge or wide-ranging knowledge of food and nutrition and all that, he still keeps things simple when it comes to the crunch of training, and not deviating too much. The fact he takes his own equipment sometimes to a race just to guarantee he will go down the route of familiarity for his stomach and his palate. And I think that's where, again, sometimes it's a good message to reiterate when you find what you know and you love and you know works for you. When it comes to important phases of training, with a session or with a race, stick to what you know. It is a mantra you should certainly live by. Experiment at other times when it doesn't matter as much, but when it comes to those key moments, you know what works, refine what works, and stick to what works, because that's it's important to do that.
Absolutely, and keeping that little corner of your packing saved for something to be able to make sure that you can replicate either the night before or the morning of, particularly breakfast. That is, I think, a really, really good tip. Certainly, I used to squeeze my rice cooker in, make sure that I had that there doubled up for both night before and
How
then.
big is this rice cooker? Like, is this big?
You can get all different sizes. So we've got a big family one in the home that I cook with, because it's also good.
travel
I use
one?
it. My travel one, the travel one's smaller, but it still is.
I mean, you're showing me. If you're watching on YouTube, you know what you're doing. If you're listening,
I'm trying to think
that
of
was
the bowl
rubbish.
size. Yeah, that is a rubbish thing.
It's
you're
like it's
probably
size
going to
of a
fit
big
500
plate?
mils. No, maybe a bit more than 500 mils. It's not massive.
Okay, I'm just imagining.
actual drum.
I'm just imagining you wheeling in your suitcase of kit and then wheeling in like your kitchen in another bag into your.
It's
hotel
only the
room.
size of a small saucepan.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay.
There you
it's
go.
good. It's
That's easier then.
it's slightly about the same size as a NutriBullet or something like that, a blender, but obviously
Yeah, it's not as
that.
tall.
Not
It's
as tall.
more
Well, yeah, I get
shallower. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Fair.
But a little bit wider. So a little bit like a squash down.
Okay, fair enough. I just wanted to see what you're travelling with. That's all right. Carry on.
Talking of nutrition, I do want to take this moment to thank our friends, of course, at Wild Nutrition for sponsoring today's episode. And they are offering, as always, Paula's Run Club listeners 50% off for 3 months.
Blimey, it is generous, isn't it? And since we've been talking so much about endurance today, it's worth mentioning that when you're logging those long marathon miles, cardiovascular health is absolutely non-negotiable.
Mm-hmm. It is, and that is why I rely on Wild Nutrition's Omega-3. A daily intake of 250 milligrams of EPA and DHA contributes to the normal function of your heart, and it is the clean fuel that your body is looking for when you're pushing yourself to your limit.
And what makes theirs stand out is the ingredient integrity. It's sustainably sourced and leads the market for purity and freshness, plus it contains the optimal 2-to-1 ratio of EPA to DHA.
And as we all know, running isn't just physical, it is also a mental marathon. So when you hit those psychological barriers on your long Sunday run, cognitive resilience is everything.
Yeah, especially if you want to remember which way to go, right, Paula?
Yeah, and not get lost, exactly.
Not get lost. Spot on. The DHA in that oil contributes to the maintenance of normal brain function, helping support your mind through those long, challenging miles.
And Wild Nutrition are giving all of Paula's Run Club listeners an exclusive 50% off for 3 months and a free personal consultation with a nutritional therapist. Just head to wildnutrition.com/Paula to get started.
That's wildnutrition.com/Paula, so you can feel the difference yourselves. Your 2026 Foundation for Wellness terms and conditions do apply.
Excellent. Now time to get into Charlotte. Quick catch up with Charlotte. Kind of keeping my fingers crossed.
A little bit, yeah.
I know she's been reduced to running on the treadmill, but at least she's running and able to do that. And I know we got her a pair of neutral shoes, and she has been able to kind of crack on in those. So I'm excited to see and keeping my fingers crossed that everything's going in the right direction for Charlotte now.
Hi, Paul, it's Run Pod. Just a small update from me. I'm basically doing a lot of running on the treadmill at the moment, and I'm still trying to keep the shins happy. So I'm doing all my long runs, all my easy runs on the treadmill at a slight incline. So it's quite good in terms of, let's see, heart rate up very quickly. But it is getting to the point now where the long runs are getting very, very long. I'm spending a couple of hours on the treadmill, but this is basically when training gets really difficult. This is when it gets really important. So I'm just trying to keep positive, trying to have my finish line as my motivation, have the big day as the motivation, and just get through it basically. Just trying to tackle it one run at a time, and always praise myself at the end and make sure that I'm recognising that it is a big deal every time I get on the treadmill and I do a couple of hours non-stop. But yeah, the long run's getting longer, my body's getting tired, I'm constantly hungry, but I think that kind of means that it's all going well. That's kind of what I've heard marathon training is like. So, at least it's a positive that I'm on the right track, I'm feeling all the right things. I'm trying to prioritise rest, trying to eat well, trying to get all the runs in, even if they're not where I wanted to do them or the speed I want to do them. I'm getting them done, which I think is the important thing, and I am enjoying the process still, even though it's now getting very difficult. But yeah, my longest run is a couple of weeks away. I'm very nervous for it, but because I've been building it up week on week, I've got some confidence that I should be able to do it. Even if, like a couple of weeks ago, my longest run was still a half marathon, and now I've been doing more than that every single week. It's an exciting process, even if it's a tiring process, but I'm enjoying the journey, so stay tuned.
Great to catch up with Charlotte Davis there. She is our first time London marathon runner, and it's good to see her getting excited, and we wish her the very best of luck in the rest of training going into that. Now, Tomo, you need the very best of luck, because guess what's coming up?
Yes, I do. It's my turn, isn't it?
It is your turn. It is your turn. Have you got your clock handy?
No.
Right.
There's
Your
no
challenge, your 1 minute challenge this week is your food and hydration routine.
Oh, God.
That's a double whammy, isn't it? We could have just given you one and it would have been kinder, wouldn't it?
I am slightly complaining over the double whammy there. I'm 3 minutes on one of those things. So I'll do my best. I probably won't get all of this done. So around a race, especially around a marathon, in the 2 or 3 days leading into it, I tend to actually be quite bland and repetitive, like with your pastas, white pastas and potatoes, bit of veg, things like that. I wouldn't say I necessarily have too much of a routine necessarily, but it is very much, I suppose, Italian based pasta stuff for the 2 days. The thing which I do get quite strict on is the morning of the marathon, and I will have porridge, yogurt, peanut butter, fruit in there, all mashed in, which I do before any race, and I try and do that 3 hours before, regardless of the time. I forgot about the hydration. I drink heavily, like at all times during the day. I have a bottle which actually in the picture you can see, and I will try and get 2 or 3 of them down again. So I'm never, whenever it finished, I just get another one. So anytime I think I'm hungry, I drink, and I will try and 2 hours before stop eating, and I will try and drink and then flush it all out as much as I can before the race. That was terrible.
That was actually bang on, 59.
It was bang on, but I feel like it's difficult to do that justice in 1 minute. That's the only thing I would say.
Yeah, you just feel like you're rushing.
Yes. I think
you did
the main
hit the target.
I did. I think the main thing is that my breakfast is a stable, but yes, I think I've done as well as I can do for a minute.
And anybody who is at that point now, they're starting to think, because they should be kind of at that point in the training cycle where you know what works for you ahead of your long run, right? Because we're kind of approaching peak of long run, as we said last week. So getting that nutrition down pat in terms of knowing what works for you and how long before. That's a good point to reiterate. So you stopped eating 2 hours before.
No, 3. So
3 hours.
I think that was a thing for me. I would say is nutrition is big, but also timing is just as important.
Yeah.
And that's where you say, like, I would have my breakfast regardless of what time the marathon started. Like New York was a nightmare because sometimes I think one of the races starts at 7 a.m. but because you're flying that direction, it wasn't as bad for British time. But I would always still try and eat my breakfast 3 hours before. And then if I'm doing a marathon, I would have whatever my energy drink would be, to sort of drink that through to about an hour before the race. Then I would stop any kind of fueling drink in the hour before. But it was the timings that worked for me. For other people, I've had conversations where they like to eat up until 2 hours before. That's fine. But I think I remember from a previous episode talking about we need to not have a stomach that's still digesting and using up energy. And for everyone, it's kind of different. So when did you finish eating?
So I was 3 hours before I started to warm up.
Right. Okay.
So I was a bit over 3 hours.
4 hours almost.
But I would keep drinking on the carbohydrate drinks right through warm up, all the way up to the start of the race. But yeah, I would eat that far before. I wouldn't necessarily in training, just because of the practicalities of fitting it in. But that was what I did for racing, so that was ideal for me.
I was going to say, I was just thinking, especially for people that are travelling and that, cereal bars are quite good, just to breaking up that kind of...
But there can be a lot of sugar added into it, can't there? So I think it's not bad, but I think it's something that you have to have tried in training.
Yes.
So if you've tried that and you're fine with it, it's fine. But if you haven't, don't starting that out of the blue on race weekend just because it's easy. And then around training, I mean, what did you do? I have to say, I was really good. I think I'm a bit... In case you haven't noticed, I'm a little bit OCD about some stuff when I'm particularly around training. So I do remember when I was about 14, 15, being told about this 20-minute window after training to get food into you, and then being quite fixated on making sure that I would eat very quickly within coming in. So I also use my rice cooker quite a lot in the training week, because you could do things like a risotto in there, keeping warm, so you literally come in kind of even before I get in the shower, make sure I've eaten something. And I would always have a kind of refueling drink immediately having finished long run, because sometimes then you might have to drive home, might get in the ice bath afterwards, so those things take time. So I'd make sure that I had that refueling happening immediately, and I think it is a good go-to, particularly even at the finish of the marathon. I mean, I'm a big advocate of literally grab whatever you want, whatever you can get your hands on, because you are walked, and it takes a long time to walk through all of that, through the St James's Park. Find your friends and family, find some clothes, and just whatever you are given, just get it down you.
I think for me, it's like, you're right, but I certainly... And I naturally had this feeling inside me, even though I think it's the right thing, is I would be drawn to drinking before eating after training, always. That would always get me, and I always felt like for me to get more food in, I would need to drink first. And there is a reason, that is a logical thing that actually happens with your body, because you need to bring your core temperature down. You need your hydration to be able to absorb the food better. But I always felt like afterwards that if I could do a good job in the first half an hour stopping of drinking, and I would have a recovery drink as well, when it comes to about an hour, I'd have a good balance of being hungry with getting good amount of fuel in. If I tried to eat too soon before drinking, I would stifle actually getting food in, and I would struggle with it. So really get that hydration in first to enable you to get the food in at the right level that your body needs, because it is difficult otherwise.
There are tricks you can do with that, aren't there? I remember Kelly Holmes in Athens, and she went for salted cashew nuts, and she had someone handing her to them. But then the point being that usually if you have something like that, you kind of need to have a drink with it. Yeah. So it kind of forced the two to go together. And she had somebody, even as she was coming off through the mix zone, to make sure that she was refueling well, because she was, of course, going through the rounds of the 8, and then I think it was that way around, and then rounds of the 1500, or it might have been vice versa.
Yeah, no, it was 8 first, yeah.
Yeah. So she was doing all of that and just really concentrating. And I know that athletes kind of have to go through qualifying rounds and multiple events at championships as well, will really focus on making sure that they have got that recovery in. But it is just as important when you are putting in now the bulk and the high end mileage at this point in the thing. And again, just to make sure everyone feels a little bit better, we are kind of approaching the fun time, as the taper will be starting to come in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, but let's not think about that just yet. Let's get to the top. Let's get to the top first. You don't want to get complacent. They're going to get complacent. But anyway, yes. But hopefully that helps, because I definitely think that journey, the individualized journey, is important. That people work out timings and what settles on the stomach. I think is a really good message, especially around the big sessions and the big long runs to feed into the actual marathon day. But yeah,
and help you stay clear of injury. So, as the weather is in and out, shall we say, Tomo, at the moment, and it's getting nice and then suddenly it's not so nice again, one of the things you might want to consider is some indoor running on a treadmill. We know that Charlotte's having to do that, and we have a special offer running this week, and it is from Wahoo and their Kick a Run. I've been reading about it, and you know what I really like is the dynamic pacing part, because one of the things, I don't know if you do it, but when I'm running, I don't run the same pace. Even if I'm running on a flat road, I don't naturally run the same pace. So I find it hard on a treadmill. I find myself moving forward or moving backwards. And this Kick a Run treadmill actually adapts to you as your pace speeds up or slows down a little bit, and it will change with it. And you've been reading up on the terrain simulation, haven't you, as well?
I have, but I've seen it in action. Like it's impressive. It's incredibly responsive. Like it's kind of solving a problem that with treadmills about putting the power back into the runner's hands rather than treadmill controlling you, which I think is a bit of their tag, which is it's really interesting, impressive. And also, as you just mentioned, the terrain aspect, where again it tries to mimic the routes or the outdoor running that your muscles would encounter on uneven ground. So it tilts and moves based on altering the terrain and altering the stimulus that the feet have to go through.
Yeah, and you can program in routes, can't you, Sue? You could even program it in the kind of course profile of the London Marathon, and it will simulate what that would be like. So you can kind of practice a little bit, which I think is absolutely great. So well worth heading to their website to check out. And of course, we have an offer for that. Why wouldn't we? So you can head to wahoofitness.com and use the discount code Paula's Run Club. And when you put that code in, you will get a free headwind fan, which is a good piece of kit. So well worth having a look at that and checking it out. That has been an episode. We've got a fair few offers packed in there for you, and hopefully some nutrition help and tips as well as hydration packed in. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Please don't forget that you can get in touch with us. Shakeout drops every Thursday, of course. And that is the email at paulasrunclub@momentumbroadcast.co.uk, or on socials at Paula's Run Club, or that WhatsApp +44 7564 747 914. Once again, thank you very much to Heiko for sponsoring this episode and sponsoring the pod. And a reminder again of that code. You can, of course, head to drinkheiko.co.uk, use the code PRC, and you will get 10% off your first order. See whether you like it, and then 20% off the second. This has been a Momentum Media production, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
See you later, guys.